life is a big mystery, isn't it? It always has been. I think people are intrigued by mystery.
You once told me that actors were cattle to be shoved about.
You mean you want to make them larger cattle than they are?
Following the massive success of Psycho in 1960, Alfred Hitchcock's next film was to be partly inspired by the true events of a mass bird attack on the seaside town of Capitola in California. On August 18, 1961, Capitola residents awoke to hordes of seabirds dive-bombing their homes, crashing into cars and spewing half-digested anchovies onto their lawns. It was a mystery to what caused this attack, but years later it was discovered that the cause of the birds' behaviour was toxic algae. Hitchcock began work on the birds in September 1961. He hired Tippi Hedren to play the lead role. She had been a model in New York when Hitchcock saw her in an advertisement for diet soda. Hitchcock later stated, "I signed her because she is a classic beauty. Movies don't have them anymore." Hitchcock became known for having remarked that actors should be treated like cattle. He despised method acting and believed that actors should concentrate on their performances and leave work on script and character to the directors and screenwriters. Despite his reputation as a man who disliked actors who worked with him often gave brilliant performances.
Is your time so empty?
No. Well, I run the office.
Do you go out with friends?
You've never had an empty moment in your entire life, have you?
Hedren had never starred in a film before and knew next to nothing of the industry. Hitchcock became her drama coach and gave her an education in filmmaking. Hedren said, "I probably learned in 3 years what it would have taken 15 years to learn otherwise." She learned how to break down a script, to become another character and to study the relationship of different characters. At first she found the shooting wonderful. Nonetheless, Hedren recalled the week she did the final bird attack in a second-floor bedroom as the worst of her life. At the time of shooting, Hedren and other cast members alleged Hitchcock became overbearing. Rod Taylor, who was on cast in the film, later remembered, "Hitch was becoming very domineering of Tippi, and it was very difficult for her. No one was permitted to come physically close to her during the production. 'Don't touch the girl after I call cut,' he said to me repeatedly." It is also interesting to note throughout the film Tippi appears to be the focus of the birds' attack, and no one believes her when she tells them. Hitchcock also allegedly attempted on one occasion to grab and violently kiss Hedren in the back of a car as they drove onto the set. Hedren told her assistant Peggy Robertson and the studio chief Lou Wasserman that she was becoming very unhappy with the whole situation. Hitchcock films often featured characters' strained relationships with their mothers. In The Birds, Rod Taylor struggles to free himself from a clinging mother. In Psycho, Norman Bates is psychotically obsessed with his mother. In North by Northwest, Roger Thornhill is ridiculed by his mother. In Frenzy, the killer has a loathing of women but idolizes his mother. In Strangers on a Train, Bruno hates his father but at the same time idolizes his mother. And in Notorious, Sebastian has a tense relationship with his overbearing mother. So far as work went, the final product was a big success. Universal executives who did not back Hitchcock's decision to hire Hedren in the first place were impressed with her performance and described it as remarkable. Hitchcock was so pleased with her performance he offered her a leading role in his next film, Marnie, to which Tippi accepted. During the shooting of Marnie, Tippi claimed Hitchcock became even more overbearing and began to sexually harass her on set. The 2012 film The Girl documented Hedren's time working on The Birds and Marnie with Hitchcock.
when Melanie goes up to the attic filled with birds.
But why does she go up there on her own?
Because I want her to.
In this tense scene, Hitchcock questions why Hedren refuses his advances to the only people who come close to what you could call friends. Rather than looking for another person's opinion, it seems Hitchcock just wants to voice his own bitterness to anyone who'll listen.
Fancy a drink, Jim?
Everyone, I mean everyone, knew he was obsessed with me. He always wanted a glass of wine or champagne with me alone at the end of the day. He was really isolating me from everyone, Tippi later stated. Hitchcock revealed to Hedren one day that he had a recurring dream where she came up to him and said, "Hitch, I love you, I'll always love you." When she heard this, Hedren replied, "But it was just a dream, just a dream." Hedren told him Marnie would be their last film together and later recalled how Hitchcock told her he would destroy her career. "I said I wanted to get out of my contract and he said, 'You can't, you have your daughters to support and your parents are getting older.' I said, 'Nobody will want me to be in this situation, I want to get out.' And he said, 'I'll ruin your career.' I said, 'Do what you have to do,' and he did ruin my career. He kept me under contract, paid me to do nothing for close to 2 years."
Oh, you're not cold, are you? You seem to be trembling.
Hedren felt so humiliated she later called the director a fat pig in front of people on set. Hitchcock made only a comment about this to his biographer John Russell Taylor. "She did what no one is permitted to do. She referred to my weight." The two communicated only through a third party for the rest of the film. When The Girl was released in 2012, detailing the relationship between Hitchcock and Hedren, it was highly criticised. Hedren herself said it did portray Hitchcock's behaviour to her well, but also stated, "It wasn't a constant barrage of harassment. If it had been constantly, I would have been long gone." She recalled there were times she described him as absolutely delightful and wonderful, and insisted that Hitchcock had a charm about him. He was very funny at times, and he was incredibly brilliant in his field. Kim Novak, who worked on Hitchcock's Vertigo, disputed Hitchcock's portrayal as a sexual predator in The Girl. "I never saw him make a pass at anybody or act strange to anybody. And wouldn't you think if he was that way, I would have seen it, or at least seen him with somebody? I think it's unfortunate when someone's no longer around and can't defend themselves." Hedren's biggest criticisms came from the fact she attended an event in 1979 honouring his achievements, and also attended his funeral. She stated, "He ruined my career, but he didn't ruin my life. That time of my life was over. I still admire the man for who he was." She also said, "I've been able to separate the two, the man with the artist. I mean, what he gave to the motion picture industry can't be taken away from him, and I certainly wouldn't want to try. But on the other side, there is that dark side that was really awful."